بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Ask Eman, broadcasted live from the London studio of Eman Channel on Sky 757. We're also streaming live on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel. So please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to all our social media platforms, of course, including Facebook page and YouTube channel. I'm your host, Qamarul Islam. Joining us tonight, none other than our regular guest, Shaykh Ad-Duha. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair for giving us your valuable time.
Barakallahu feekum.
My dear viewer, just a humble reminder, it's a live interactive Q&A program. If you have any questions, then 0203 515 0757. Alternatively, you can drop us a text on WhatsApp, 07916841483. And of course, our international viewers can use the WhatsApp number to call in directly into the studio. And inshallah, of course, you can drop us your questions on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. Inshallah, we'll be taking them live as well to the best of our ability as much as we can. But of course, our priority and precedence will always be given to our callers who call in live into the studio. Now, Sheikh, let's start discussing about a particular topic. Recently, I saw a particular video on your channel and it says, protect your child's Iman before it's too late. What do you mean by that, briefly?
Subhanallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So some of the viewers may already know that some of the work that I do is with young people.
Mm-hmm.
And that work is in two ways. I work with young people in two ways. Number one, I provide some mentoring. Number two, I provide counseling for young people who are having difficulties holding on to their Iman.
So when you say difficulties,
they're having doubts. They don't believe in Islam anymore. They don't think they believe.
So let me get it straight. So born in a Muslim family, in a Muslim environment, but they have doubt in Islam.
I'm talking about practicing Muslim families. Parents are strong on deen. I'm talking about children from these kind of families. And when I first started this work, I assumed that I would be dealing with young people at the older end of the spectrum, meaning that young people in their late teens, towards the end of sort of sixth form, early university age, and so on. This is what I anticipated when I started this work. But what I'm finding increasingly is that young people I've just recently cancelled a youngster, 14 years of age, is inclined to atheism.
Inna lillah.
Right? This is not the first time I've encountered that. And what I'm finding is that the influence of modern liberal culture, secular culture, school studies, etc., on their Iman is beginning a lot earlier than many people think. Right? The youngest person I've encountered, the youngest age I've encountered a young person to consciously reject deen because of their experience, etc., is 10.
SubhanAllah.
So what I'm calling on the community to do about this is if the messaging that is attacking the foundation of the Iman of our children, even those who are brought up in practicing Muslim families, then we also have to counter those messages early. There is no sheltering them from those messages, because those messages are ubiquitous. They're everywhere, right? They're being broadcast through social media. They're being broadcast through cartoons. They're being broadcast through films, through TV shows, etc. They're being broadcast by teachers at school, and so on. I know groups of children, teenagers, who've been led to atheism by their RE teacher, for example. Right? And I don't mean this is not an isolated incident. I have personally, as somebody who counsels on this, encountered it several times over. So my point is, the influences are many. Our children are definitely facing them, and therefore we have to do something about it before it's too late.
Many will find it very shocking.
Too late is not 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Too late is now, I'm convinced, is now early teens.
Now, many people will be shocked when you said practicing Muslim family, children from those kind of families, because we have a concept that if you are from a practicing family, you automatically will be nurtured as a practicing Muslim or Muslimah.
Yeah, we're nurtured, our children are nurtured habitually. They are not nurtured intellectually and spiritually.
Good point, intellectually.
So in the sense that, what does it mean to nurture a child? Generally, for most practicing Muslims, we nurture them to pray regularly, meaning we try to build inside of them the habit of prayer. But we do not teach them to learn to engage with the meaning of prayer. We teach them the fundamentals of the Deen as taken for granted maxims. Allah exists, Allah is one, there are angels, we believe in these things, end of story. Almost none of our educational provision to young children caters for just the simple thing of why, right? Allah is one. Why? What is the evidence of that?
But culturally, why ask silly question?
Well, that's fair enough. Maybe in 1970s rural Bangladesh, but the question,
Or Pakistan or India.
yeah. But the point is that the questions are already being asked. I'm not saying, we're not preempting here. Let's not misunderstand this. We're not preempting anything.
Okay.
We have already been preempted, right? We have already, the preemptive strike has already happened. I'm calling upon people for defense. It's just that it is unseen to most of us.
Okay.
It's unknown and unseen to the community, and we need to wake up to it.
Thank you very much for that. Indeed, what we heard, it is something that we should all be careful. We should all be having a strong engagement with our family members, especially our youth, our younger generation, our younger brothers and sisters, children, of course. And inshallah, if in doubt, we consult qualified ulama, of course. Now, Shaykh, let's move on to our first generated question. And of course, our viewers will be able to see that live on screen. What was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's diet?
What was it? Well, I mean, we know from ahadith what the ahadith mention with reference to what the Prophet ﷺ ate. We don't know the Prophet ﷺ's diet as the word diet is understood in the modern sense, in the sense that we know what he ate every single day over a specific period of time, right? So we know that the Prophet ﷺ's diet consisted, as normally people in those regions would customarily do and have. It consisted of a plentiful supply of dates. It's a land of dates, but we know that sometimes due to financial difficulties, he would suffice just on dates and water. We know that he, that barley was something that the Prophet ﷺ ate. We know that he liked something called tharid, which is bread mixed with like a meat kind of dish, right? We know that the Prophet ﷺ enjoyed meat but didn't eat it frequently. It wasn't a frequent dish, but he did enjoy it. We know that the Prophet ﷺ praised vinegar, and that in various ways that was part of his diet, and so on. So we know bits about what the Prophet ﷺ ate, and so on.
What about tea, honey?
Yeah, honey, etc. But what's probably more useful in terms of diet is because there's very people's diets vary from climate to climate.
Correct.
One of the big, for example, I'm Bangladeshi, right? So one of the biggest dietary mistakes of the Bangladeshi community is that we think that what our parents and grandparents ate back home is perfectly suited to here.
That's
right?
true.
It's not. So diets don't necessarily transfer unless we can say that the Prophet ﷺ has attached some sort of benefit to something, which he has done in some ahadith.
Thank you very much. Let's move on, but before that, let me caveat this out. Of course, certain things we have to be conscious about our own health condition. If in doubt, let us speak to our doctors first, just because it's sunnah. But then if there is any issues with your health, then that's another problem. So always, if in doubt, please speak to your doctor in case if there is any illnesses or any underlying health condition. Moving on swiftly to our next, or in fact, our first caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Briefly, if you can please say your question, please.
My question is, are gaming tournaments haram?
A gaming?
Yes or no?
Okay, let me
Are
understand.
gaming tournaments?
Or gaming tournaments?
Yes.
Okay.
Haram.
Okay, gaming tournaments are haram. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay,
my question.
I understood.
Like,
Unfortunately, Sheikh won't be able to answer in yes or no, and that's how we don't dictate to our guest. Our guest has the freedom to choose however they wish to respond. Okay, but thank you very much. You are a young caller and asked a very important and interesting question. Sheikh, hold on to that thought, and I'll come back to you after the break because it requires a bit of lengthy answer. But do keep watching Ask Eman. Inshallah, when we come back from break, we'll be starting answering your question first. And of course, many of our young generation or younger generation have this question in common, and we've seen commonly this question has been asked on Ask Eman. But inshallah, let's find out from Shaykh Ad-Duha after a short break. You're watching Ask Eman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757 0203 515 0757, our studio number 07916841 our WhatsApp number. We'll be right back in a few moments. You're watching Ask Eman. Thank you very much. Welcome back. You're watching Ask Eman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757 in conversation with Shaykh Ad-Duha. In the first segment, we had a young caller asked a very important and, of course, a common question that is always asked on Ask Eman. However, it's a young viewer, so obviously we have to prioritize, and it's an interesting question. Are gaming tournaments haram?
Okay, well, that's like asking me, are tournaments haram? So we can't give a yes or no answer to that because it's such a, it can be all sorts of types of different types of tournaments. So it really depends on what kind of games and what kind of tournament and how the tournament works.
Okay.
Generally speaking, gaming is permissible if the game is permissible, provided that it does not distract a person from any aspect of their deen, right? And it doesn't become harmful. So for example, gaming addiction is harmful. So it's possible to argue based on that, given that harm is to always be minimized, that somebody who that it would be impermissible to be engaged in gaming to that degree and to that extent.
Okay.
So a person enters into a tournament. Have they reached tournament level gaming because of their addiction? Because they were already gaming too much, right? So these are all questions, but these are questions better addressed by parents and not necessarily based on halal and haram. There's clear evidence that too much gaming is haram and gaming addiction is haram. Not haram, sorry, is harmful. So therefore, to answer the question simply, it depends on what kind of game and the configuration of the tournament. Okay. So imagine if it's I'll give you an example, right? So imagine if it's like I'm familiar with FIFA, my children play. Okay. Right? So imagine it's a FIFA tournament online, okay? And it's organized by reputable people. Parents have looked into it. Everything's safe.
Okay.
There's no haram elements to the tournament, right? Then I would be inclined to say a game like that, a tournament like that, would be permissible.
Some parents would say it's a time waste.
That's a different issue. Well, if your child is already engaged in that time waste, otherwise they wouldn't be good enough to be in the tournament in the first place.
Okay.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So that's why I addressed that first.
Okay.
That when it comes to the question of time wasting, that precedes the question of tournament, because nobody's entering any kind of tournament unless they're really, really good and have spent hours and hours in gaming. Why are they spending hours and hours on gaming if it's a time waste? Does that make sense?
Sure,
That
yeah.
argument doesn't apply at the tournament level. It applies to the question of how much gaming is acceptable. And we don't even need a religious argument for that, right? Think about how it impacts their homework, how it impacts their school, how it impacts them
Mental health.
psychologically, and so on and so forth. And the moment it becomes harmful, it also becomes impermissible in the Sharia.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Hope it clarifies. And of course, as Shaykh has mentioned in the beginning, that it's something that we need to consult, discuss with our parents, and see what it is. And if in doubt, of course, parents will engage with our qualified.
I suppose one thing we can say here is if your parents are saying you can't do it,
and you want to do it because your friends and classmates do it.
then I can say it's haram to disobey your parents.
Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough. Inshallah, that's very clear. I'm sure our young viewers are, alhamdulillah, very intelligent, and hopefully it helps them. And of course, if you're watching the program, any young viewers, please have an open and fair conversation with your parents. Let's move on to our next generated question. And of course, you'll be seeing that on your screen. I have OCD and intrusive thoughts. Is there a dua I can make to stop these thoughts?
Generally, the morning and evening du'as of protection are useful in that regard. However, if these things have got things to a stage to a person that is impacting a person's quality of life in any way, then one should also consider taking professional help in addition to the spiritual aids. So with that said, generally things like so there's a whole host of du'as recommended for the morning and recommended for the evening. You can look up Hisnul Muslim and so on. If you look up the du'as that are titled under the du'as of the morning and the du'as of the evening, and also the du'as that are recited before going to bed and immediately after fard salah, there is sufficient protection in them. Generally, dhikr is an excellent way to bring these things under control, as well as your own practicing your own sort of willpower and so on. But that should be done ideally with some sort of professional help and oversight in terms of techniques, utilizing techniques that perhaps a therapist might give and so on. These things are also useful. But if you're looking for spiritual solutions in terms of du'as, then just open up Hisnul Muslim, and I would say regularly do the morning du'as, the evening du'as, and the du'as after every salah. So, for example, a common thread in these, in the morning, evening, after every salah, before going to bed, is Surah Ikhlas, Surah Falaq, Surah Nas, Ayatul Kursi.
Okay.
For example, right, as a minimum. And then there's all these other du'as. So the book you should look up is Hisnul Muslim. It has a group of du'as under morning and evening du'as that you should recite every day. And then there'll be a group of du'as that are for after every fard prayer that you should recite every day, and some for before going to sleep.
Thank you very much. That's spiritual guidance. And of course, for medical guidance, please do consult a qualified doctor. And of course, discuss about your mental health condition, should there be any. Moving on swiftly to our next caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. I have a couple of questions, 3 questions actually. The first question is regarding use of dice in children's board games, so like Snakes and Ladders and Ludo and stuff like that. Just wanted to know if that's permissible just for the sole purpose of like teaching them, counting, etc.
Okay.
Second question is about prayer. So is my prayer valid if I don't use a sutra? Is a sutra mandatory? Like, do you have to use that for the validity of your prayer?
Okay.
And the third question is regarding creams, so like body creams and face creams, and the validity of wudu. So everywhere I've kind of read if wudu is valid, if I've got certain creams on my body or my face, it just says that if it creates a barrier from the water kind of going on your skin, then obviously your wudu is not valid until that cream is removed. But what is considered a barrier? Because in some creams, in just general creams, like even for eczema and stuff, you'll get something called you'll get skin protectants in there. And even creams like, for example, Vaseline, that's considered something that is supposed to create a sort of like a barrier just to keep the skin kind of soft in a way.
Yeah, it's clear.
So are these considered barriers that affect wudu?
Okay, it's clear. Sheikh, any additional question you would like to ask? Okay, all the questions, 3 beautiful questions, very clear. Inshallah, let's proceed. Sheikh, first,
The
use
first
of
one
dice.
about dice.
Yeah, teaching and counting
Yeah.
purposes.
So first of all, about dice games in general, actually, if you look it up, you'll find many ulama will say they are not permissible because of the fact that there are some ahadith that prohibit certain games that involve dice, board games that involve dice. And ulama have basically analogously then proceeded to say all dice games are impermissible. Other scholars have said, and I incline to this, especially when it comes to children and so on. I mean, we should not be addictively playing any game.
Okay.
But when it comes to children and so on, that the one argument is that the reason for impermissibility is that these almost culturally involved gambling.
Okay.
With the game. And therefore, as long as it is just a pastime, an innocent pastime.
But here, sister said for teaching or counting.
But just to clarify, because if I just say it's permissible, it will raise the question, oh, hang on, many ulama say it's not permissible.
Okay.
So just to put it into context, so the argument of permissibility is based on the idea that these things are permissible because the impermissible view is based on gambling kind of being involved in the game. As such, for the purpose that the sister mentioned, for children and teaching children to count and etc., I would say it's fine. It's mubah.
Thank
permissible.
you. Mubah means optional.
Permissible.
Okay. Second is sutra.
The second is sutra. Whether you have a sutra or not, whether you pray with a sutra or not, does not affect the validity of your salah. However, if you pray without a sutra in a public place where a sutra is needed to stop people from or to stop people or from passing in front of you in salah, then the person praying may be accountable for being neglectful of that. So when you don't need to put a sutra everywhere.
Okay.
For example, if you're praying against a wall or something like that, or somewhere where it's unlikely that
or in a corner.
Or in a corner, or somewhere where it's unlikely anybody will pass in front of you, then it's not a problem. Otherwise, if you're praying somewhere where people may pass before you, then you should use a sutra. And if you don't, the sutra doesn't have to be a prescriptive stick dug into the ground. If something of a certain height is not available, then anything can be used. It can be your coat, right, and so on. But something should be put there as a marker.
Thank you very much for that. Third question, inshallah, sister, will give the answer after a short break. You're watching Ask Eman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757. And my dear sister will start the next segment answering your question first, of course, the third question. You're watching Ask Eman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757 or 203-515-0757. Our studio number 07916841483. Our WhatsApp number, and of course our international viewers can use the WhatsApp number to call in directly into the studio. Of course, we're also streaming live on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel. I can already see, alhamdulillah, you're sending us questions. Inshallah, we'll be taking some of those questions in the next and of course in the last segment. We'll be right back in a few moments. Thank you very much. Welcome back. You're watching Ask Iman live on Eman Channel Sky 757 in conversation with Shaykh Ad-Duha. All the necessary contact details, inshallah, will be displayed, or in fact now displaying at the bottom of your screen. Our last caller asked 3 questions, sister, and she has asked 3 important questions. In fact, 2 of them have been already answered. Of course, if you would like to watch, you can find the videos on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, and of course, you can watch the repeat on either Sunday or Monday. We'll be starting with our 3rd question, and that is with regards to putting creams either on the body or face that may create a barrier. And in terms of Urdu, her question was, what is the actual definition of barrier?
A layer over the skin that does not allow water to penetrate to the skin.
Okay.
The sister made an interesting observation about oil-based creams, Vaseline,
True.
things like that. These things are not an obstacle if they are rubbed into the skin. As long as they're rubbed into the skin. If it was a blob of Vaseline over your skin, then you'd have to either rub that in or remove that. You understand what I mean?
Yes, yes,
There's a lump of Vaseline on it. Clearly, that's a physical barrier. There's no water getting through that. But if it's already rubbed into the skin, right, then it would not be considered a barrier. And creams of that nature would be fine, unless it was like something that is some sort of waterproof layer. I know that's the case with certain eyelashes and makeups and things like that. Those things should be avoided for the sake of wudu. With oil-based things, you have to remember that the Prophet ﷺ applied oil to his hair, right? So we know that those things are not included in this idea of a barrier. We're talking about physical barriers, like the way a bit of paint is a physical barrier, Tipex is a physical barrier, the way nail polish is a physical layer. There is no way that anything is getting to the skin. But things that are mixed into the skin or rubbed into the skin, right, they become part of the skin.
Okay, clear.
Makes sense? The way the oil that the Prophet ﷺ applied or the perfume that they applied would be considered part of their hair or part of their skin, and that's not a problem to masah and washing and so on.
Clear. Thank you very much for that. I hope the answer is clear, my dear sister. And if you have any further question, then of course 0203 515 0757, our studio number. Let's move on to our next WhatsApp question. Assalamu alaikum. My question is, if we are outside home and the time for Maghrib has already started, but I've returned home before Isha time, is it still valid for me to pray Salatul Maghrib?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. You should pray straight away.
Okay.
If you are unable to, and the question really isn't, is it valid? Even if Maghrib time had gone and you prayed Maghrib in the Isha time, it's still valid and you're meant to pray it then.
Okay.
Your question really is, have I prayed Maghrib on time? And the answer is yes, you have. Because it's not Maghrib time extends until Isha time.
Okay.
However, it is sunnah to pray Maghrib as soon as time enters.
That's for every salah, isn't it?
This was not necessarily, no. Every salah has a mustahab time that is delayed. For example, with Isha, the mustahab time is the first half of the second third of the night.
Okay.
So the mustahab times can be delayed into the time of that salah time. Maghrib, the Prophet ﷺ specifically recommended that it should be prayed early in the time, and for that reason, like in the Hanafi madhab, it's Fajr is mustahab for Fajr to be delayed until about 45 minutes before
Hanafi school of thought, yes.
Hanafi school of thought, before sunrise. So the mustahab time, the preferred time within that big, within the
spectrum
range, within the amount of time that there is between start and end, can be different, right? It's not always necessarily the early time. But with Maghrib specifically, the Prophet ﷺ encouraged that it is prayed as soon as time enters.
Okay.
And for that reason, we should try. But if for whatever reason we ended up delayed, we were outside, etc., and we've come home within Maghrib time, which is what we should endeavor to do, then we've prayed on time.
Thank you very much for that. And of course, Shaykh has mentioned, briefly alluded to, let us plan. Of course, if we can plan accordingly, and if we plan things according to our salah timetable, I'm sure, inshallah, it's possible. However, if sometimes things happen because of accidents, emergency, then of course, Shaykh has mentioned. Jazakallah khair. Shaykh, we've discussed in the last 2 segments about games, about importance of time, etc. So our young viewer on YouTube is asking, what does wasting time mean?
Wasting time means wasting time.
Yes, so it's interesting.
Okay, so wasting time is wasting time.
Yeah.
Come on, right? That we know what that means. The question really, I suppose, the implied question here is, what is like impermissible wastage of time? So look, all wasting of time is discouraged, because the alternative is to be using our time productively. Of course, we should all be using our time productively. But I would say that generally speaking, we all waste a certain amount of time. That doesn't necessarily mean we've committed haram,
Okay.
right? It's one of those things that's generally discouraged, and being productive with our time is generally encouraged. And the more of that time we can spend in productive things like seeking knowledge, worshipping Allah, dhikr of Allah, etc., then the better. Any time that we spend outside of those things, technically speaking, not spent fulfilling our needs, not spent earning our livelihood, not spent in ibadah, not spent seeking knowledge, not spent doing something productive, right? Is theoretically wasting time. But that wastage isn't necessarily haram. It becomes haram when it becomes an obstruction to an obligation of Allah. Meaning, if I'm wasting time doing something, of course, that something has to be permissible, right? If I'm wasting time doing something that is permissible normally, but that wastage of time leads to me delaying my salah, missing my salah, not fulfilling my obligations to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that kind of time wastage becomes haram.
Thank you very much for that. Moving on swiftly to our next question, and I will take it from WhatsApp. I've heard that there is a hadith that when giving da'wah, whichever topic it is that you're giving da'wah or advising, that you implement that in your personal life first, otherwise you're classed as a hypocrite. Is that true? Please, if you can shed some light.
No.
Okay.
If you are not practicing something yourself, it does not mean you cannot enjoin that upon another. And I'll explain that very simply.
Briefly.
Enjoining good and forbidding evil is one duty upon us. Practicing good, doing good, and refraining from evil, separate obligation.
Okay.
When a person engages in enjoining good and forbidding evil, they should practice what they preach. That is a third command. Practicing what we preach is a third command.
Okay.
However, that does not mean that when we see evil, right, because we have at times practiced that evil ourselves.
Or being part of that evil.
Right?
Yeah.
Or being part of that evil ourselves. And we see we should not stop it. Absolutely, we should stop it. Because if we're all doing that, then if you think of it in this way, if I see another person doing something bad, and it comes to my mind, it comes across in my mind that that's bad, I should try to stop it. And I say, brother, don't do that. That's not very nice. Then I find myself doing it in my own way. Then remember that there is a blessing in me doing that. There is a blessing in me having done that good deed.
Okay.
And that may become the means for me giving it up, because I'll suddenly reflect on the fact that, oh my God, I'm telling someone else to do it, but I'm not practicing it myself. It's only hypocrisy if it is deliberate hypocrisy.
For example?
For example, I am enjoining good. I have no intention of doing that good myself.
Okay.
It's just a public facade.
Okay.
You understand? I have no intention of.
But to look good.
I'm calling upon people to pray and give sadaqah, etc., etc. And I have no intention of doing those things myself. You understand? That's when it goes down the route of hypocrisy. Otherwise, enjoying good, forbid evil. Separate command of Allah.
تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. Yeah.
Do good, another command of Allah, right? Practice what you preach, another command of Allah. أتأمرون الناس بالبر وتنسون أنفسكم. All three are commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all three should be practiced.
Doesn't Allah say, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لما تقولون ما لا تفعلون?
Yeah, because to not practice what you preach is a bad thing. But that is not a prohibition
for not
preaching.
Good.
Does that make
clear.
sense?
It is very clear.
This is a common misunderstanding, and what that does, then none of us will be preaching.
Correct, because I might not even reach to that standard.
Right?
So that means
I have huge insecurities about my own sins.
Yeah.
Right? What gives me the right to sit here and talk to you?
I see.
You see what I mean?
Yes, it's clear. Next question, and we have literally 1.5 minutes. Let's see if we can squeeze this in from YouTube. If one of my siblings marries a non-Muslim or moves away from Islam, do I still continue maintaining a brother or sister relationship, or should I cut the relationship?
If it's simply a question of maintaining family ties, then you should. The only time where it might be advisable not to is if they are actively having a negative influence on you and your family.
For example?
Meaning they're calling you away from Islam as well.
Oh, I see.
That makes sense. Calling you away from Islam, there's a risk that they would call your children away from Islam, instill doubts in their minds. Only then. Otherwise, just maintaining family ties for the sake of maintaining family ties. This should be done, and this may also be that bit of contact with Islam that can, inshallah, keep the umbilical cord connected.
Connected, yeah, because if we completely cut it, then that room for engaging or discussion is completely cut off. Okay, Shaykh, thank you very much for that. We've got a lot more questions to ask, but inshallah, Shaykh, after a short break. You're watching Ask Iman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757. Thank you to all our viewers who have been asking very important questions, whether it be through our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel, and of course to our viewers who have been calling live into the studio. And thank you very much, those who are still in the queue. Inshallah, we'll be taking your phone calls after a short break, and obviously we'll be addressing some of the questions. We'll be taking many more questions from our YouTube channel and of course from our WhatsApp question. You're watching Ask Iman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757. 0203-515-0757, our studio number 07916841483, our WhatsApp number. You can drop us a text, and of course our international viewers can call in directly using the WhatsApp number. And don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to our Facebook page and of course our YouTube channel. Inshallah, we'll be right back in a few moments. You're watching Ask Iman only on Eman Channel. Thank you very much. Welcome back to Ask Iman, live on Eman Channel on Sky 757 in conversation with Shaykh Ad-Duha. We've been taking questions and answering your phone calls. Inshallah, this segment, let's move on. We'll be taking WhatsApp question. And it's a very important question, and sadly, some of us really regret when it's too late. Assalamu alaikum. I have a question that I would like to ask live. I would like to ask, what can you do to repair a broken relationship with a parent, but unfortunately never had the opportunity to ask for forgiveness when they were alive?
Do lots of good deeds on their behalf.
Such as?
Such as sadaqah. Sadaqah, most significantly, give things that give, build legacies for them. In their name.
When you say build legacy, give us an example.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know why did I use that word. Sadaqah jariyah is a form of legacy, something that has perpetuating, has perpetual benefit. If you think about it, as much as we should, if mend relationships, if the relationships are broken and so on. Now that opportunity has gone, we are fortunate that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has given us a deen in which we can still do good. The deceased and benefit them, and what's amazing is that now you're able to benefit them in a way that matters the most, which is you'll be benefiting them in the akhirah. And the Prophet ﷺ, of course, recommended three things: sadaqah jariyah, legacies of knowledge, meaning, so for example, in the questioner's case, giving to causes of knowledge, of Islamic knowledge.
Okay.
And third is the child, the offspring himself or herself making dua for the parents. So lots of dua, sadaqah, both in terms of things that will contribute towards Islamic knowledge, and also forms of sadaqah jariyah.
And a lesson for those who still have parents.
Look, if something's happened with your parent, right?
Because we don't want to be regretting later in life.
I mean, sort it out straight away. It's your parent.
Yeah, we may have our differences, but at the end of the day, they are parents.
So you might, it's not a good idea to let our egos come in when it comes to our parents. And sometimes parents can act strange and so on and so forth. But there's no harm. There's no harm in us just going and doing our part and saying, well, I'm sorry for what I've done.
And can
They
you?
might not apologize because you're their child.
Yeah,
You understand? But you don't have to make it transactional.
that's true.
You do your bit.
And remind our viewers, what's the best dua a child can make for their parents?
Any dua. I mean, the moment I prescribe a dua, I limit it.
Okay, fine.
Obviously, there's the famous dua in the Quran, رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا, and so on. But I would say, make elaborate du'as in your own words.
Okay, that's
Right?
good.
Allah forgive them, make the stages of the akhirah easy for them, and
If
so
they
on
have
and so
passed
forth.
away, and if they're alive, then hayatan tayyiba
Yeah,
grant
of
them.
course.
Of course. Okay, Jazakallah khair for that. And it's a message for all of us, those who have been blessed with both set of parents. Let us maximize ourselves in doing khair for them. And if we have any issues, then let us minimize it. Let us find a way to come out of it, inshallah. Now, next question from YouTube. What is the ruling of blowing on food to blow away heat?
There's actually a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ forbade it. The Prophet
Really?
ﷺ, yeah, he discouraged blowing onto food and drink. There's lots of discussion about why he did that.
Okay.
But without going into it, we know, and I might say that it's one of those things that would fall into the makruh category.
Okay.
That is, it's best to avoid that, and don't cool food down by blowing on it. Let it cool down naturally.
Okay. Sometimes it's just subconsciously we do it because
Yeah, we do it because we're in a rush. If
That's
you think
it.
about it, it comes from it happens
true.
because we're in a rush. So don't make a habit of it. If it's happened, it's happened. But don't make a habit of it. Try to avoid it. And the Prophet ﷺ, it was one of the etiquettes that he taught. Basically, don't blow on food.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Next question. It's very, very important, especially in the society and the culture that we live in. Alhamdulillah, we have been, shall we say, some will say blessed, some will say whatever means someone has utilized to make themselves financially very stable. So the questioner is asking, how do we get rid of haram money?
Okay. The most common context for that question is interest that people receive in their bank accounts.
Let me elaborate it a bit.
My answer would apply to that as well as any form of haram money. Once a person has come to the awareness that I may have acquired it somehow, I may have acquired it deliberately through my business dealings, etc.,
Because I wanted to be successful.
but I do not want to consume it.
Okay.
Right? In that situation, it should be given away. To the poor and to causes like like that. Ideally, don't give it to masajid and things like that. Give it away to road building and to the needs of the poor and things like that, and have no intention of reward.
See, that's another thing. Sometimes we might think, oh, I'm benefiting the poor. I'm making toilets for them.
What do you mean?
So in terms of like, I'm helping poor and needy with that interest-based money. So you're saying not to. So the concept of reward should not be there.
The concept of there is no reward in it, and giving the money away doesn't absolve a person of the sin of earning the haram money if they have earned it by their own volition. If I have gone and traded in the haram, I am sinful for that, and I have to make tawbah for that, right? But I am left with this money. What do I do with it, right? And so, since it is something that can be used productively, I'm allowed to use it productively, right?
Okay.
But I cannot expect any reward from something that is sinful.
Because the original source of income.
And let's face it, right? It's just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, to try to personally benefit from it by giving that money away, but then asking for your name to be put on a plaque.
Oh, I see.
Gaining fame off of that money, etc.
True.
Then what's happening is now you have a legacy of benefit from haram that you actually cannot wipe away.
But
while you can give away the money, the moment you start to benefit from that money in ways that are not measurable, then immeasurably we're continuing to benefit from that haram.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So sometimes we think, it's a bit of money, I'm giving it away, etc., etc. How about I do something in my name, and it'll be
in my family name.
It'll be good PR, good publicity, etc. Well, if you do it like that, then you're benefiting from the haram. The whole point of giving it away without intention of reward is that you do not benefit from it.
And let me clarify, benefit does not only mean benefiting him financially. PR, marketing, naming, branding, etc. All of that are included. Jazakallah khair for that. And that goes to if...
Giving away is a form of discarding it and cleaning yourself of it.
Okay.
You know, it's like having something impure on your clothes, right? You wash it off and that's it.
You're distancing yourself from that. Okay. Jazakallah khair for that. Next question from YouTube. Assalamu alaikum. Is keeping a dog in the house forbidden in Islam? Plus, if a dog leaks, does it break your wudu? So 2 questions.
It's only permissible if for a reason, like if it was a guard dog or something like
Or guide dog.
that. Yeah, if it was a guard, a guide. So if the dog is a necessity for one of the functional reasons for which dogs are conventionally used,
Okay.
I would say particularly like guide dogs for blind people and things like that, then yes, it's permissible.
As a pet?
As a pet, no, because the Prophet ﷺ, you know, he discouraged it. Dogs tend according to majority of scholars, the moisture, the body moisture of dogs, the saliva, etc., is impure.
Okay. So we can replace it with cats, I think.
Yeah, cats are fine.
Khalas, no problem. And dogs leak, does it break your wudu? Dogs leak if the dog...
it doesn't break your wudu, it's just an
It's not a condition of wudu.
It's an impurity you have to clean.
Okay.
So, you know, like a dog licks my trouser here, right, and I see that that's where it's licked it, I have to just clean that bit off.
Okay.
I clean that bit off, my wudu's fine.
Okay.
Doesn't affect my wudu.
Jazakallah khair.
Lick your hand, wash your hand.
Okay. Jazakallah khair for that. Next question will be taken from YouTube. Sister is asking a question. Is Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam a prophet since she was met by Angel Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam, who was also sent to prophets and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and other messengers?
Yeah, some ulama say she was.
Okay.
It's actually a minority opinion among ulama that she was a prophet, although the majority view is that she wasn't. And one of the reasons for that is actually a verse of the Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seems to explicitly say that he only sent messengers as men.
That's correct.
Right? And that verse is the primary reason why most ulama rule it out. As for Jibreel alayhi salam coming to and speaking to someone, or somebody being described as receiving some form of revelation, then this kind of experience is not even unique to Maryam alayhi salam. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about a form of revelation coming to the mother of Musa alayhi salam and so on. So those things can happen. The word wahis has been used for various reasons, and Jibreel alayhi salam can go to anyone.
Thank you very much. Our time is up. Once again, thank you very much for giving us your valuable time, and hopefully, inshallah, we'll see you again in the future episodes.
Inshallah.
Barakallah fiqh. With this, my dear viewers, we have come to the conclusion of our tonight's episode. Thank you very much for watching the program, and of course by calling us, sending us questions on either WhatsApp, Facebook, or on our YouTube channel. Inshallah, we'll continue our episode or continue this program. Tomorrow we'll be Ask Eman Urdu, so if you'd like to ask questions in Urdu language, then of course this show is for you. And of course on Friday and Saturday we are again back to our usual Ask Eman, same time, same channel, between 8 to 9 p.m. If you'd like to watch the repeat of this program, you can watch us or you can watch it on Eman Channel on Sunday and Monday. And of course, you can find our videos on Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel. Of course, once again, reminder not to forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to all our platforms. Inshallah, until next time, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.